normal, and weird really mean. None of these have set definitions. Instead, they are socially constructed ideas based on society's expectations. Each of these are an example of a social construct. Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines a social construct as an idea that has been created and accepted by people in a society. But because the idea of a social construct is too broad to describe in such a short amount of time, I have decided to focus on a social construct that I know we can all relate to, the expectation of perfection in our education system. Although this is not a typical policy that has written rules per se, it is a policy that most, if not all of us, follow on a daily basis. Based on my research and my love for psychological ideas such as this one, I will describe why I think it is necessary to shift the stereotype of perfection in our education system. To explain my point, I will describe the difference between mastery and performance goals, the difference between individualist and collectivist cultures, and finally, what we should all do to change this incredibly prevalent stigma. Owen Edwards, in his article, Learning, Not Perfection, Should Be Our Educational Ideal, explains how our current society functions in relation to education. He states, in reference to his high school experience, the shimmering mirage of perfection was not entirely an illusion. After all, there were lots of numbers and letters that ranked us according to some standard. In our society, we are not focused on mastery, we are focused on perfection. Our idea of smart and perfect in school is based on the grade you get or the grade point average you have, rather than the information obtained from the course. However, when in real life will the grade you get on a test translate into knowledge? This is something that is standing in the way from us being able to work together completely effectively. Honestly, I never really thought that much about how we define in our society who is smart or who is well educated until an experience I had at the end of fall quarter when all my friends and I were sitting around in a circle sharing our GPAs like you do at Cal Poly. And my engineering friend stated his high GPA and discovered that mine was a little bit lower than his and bluntly stated, "Lainey, I guess I'm just more smarter than you." And that comment immediately got me thinking about whether numbers are a true indicator of intelligence. To understand intelligence and how individuals use knowledge, we have to look at what the motivations for learning are. One psychological concept that is really important to the understanding of people's motivations in school is achievement goals. And achievement goals are broken up into two categories: mastery goals versus performance goals. Western Oregon University defines the difference between the two. Mastery goals are goals used by people who are intrinsically motivated at school. For example, learning the information to gain more knowledge. Whereas performance goals are used by people in school who are extrinsically motivated. For example, needing social reward for doing well. According to Anita Woolfolk, a psychologist at Brigham Young University, people who focus on mastery goals and don't worry too much about failure are the ones who will succeed in times of difficulty. Whereas performance achievers are more likely to crumble under the pressure as they are not well equipped with the knowledge they need to face these challenges. These goals are motivated by both the individual person and who they want to be, but also the culture that you are in. This is where individualist versus collectivist cultures comes in. The United States is very much so an individualist culture, in which we are always pitted against each other instead of working together on things. The breeding of competitiveness is ingrained in us at such a young age, and as a result, that is how we live our lives, always trying to be better than our friends, our acquaintances, and our peers. Patrick Duslin, in a case study titled Prevalence of Emotions, Mechanisms, and Motives, a comparison of individualist and collectivist cultures, compared the common emotions and ways of being of individuals in both types of cultures. His findings were really interesting to me, so I put them in two charts, comparing individualist cultures and collectivist cultures on the 5 same emotions. And what I found is that in collectivist cultures, positive emotions were higher, such as happiness and interest, because people are working together and supporting each other in the workplace. And the negative emotions, such as sadness, boredom, and anger, were higher in individualist cultures, where people are individual and competitive in the workplace. This makes me wonder how our lives would change if we shifted to prioritize working together rather than against each other. Would we have fewer people suffering from anxiety and depression? This could be a potential shift for a happier country overall. The biggest irony in this social construct is the fact that perfection is something that has become expected from all of us, but it has also been proven that being a perfectionist often stops you from truly being successful, and a fear of failure is much higher. Vanessa Loder, in her article, The Perfection Trap, states that if you believe that you need to be perfect, you are less likely to take risks, and more likely to be afraid to take a single step because you don't want to move in the wrong direction. After researching this topic, I firmly believe that we should redesign our education system to focus on mastery. What I want to make clear is that striving for a good grade or perfection on an assignment is not a bad thing, unless you are doing it solely for the reward and not for the information you will obtain. My call to action is to create a new approach to education in our country, focusing on both learning and mastery, not just one or the other. We should all take steps to change this stigma, and here are the 4 steps that journalist Vanessa Loder suggests we can all follow on a daily basis to change the education system and business world for the better. We can disentangle perfection and self-worth because the two shouldn't go together. Create a commitment statement committing ourselves to taking that step. Take action in our lives, and find examples of people you admire who have failed, because failure is a natural thing. The social construction of perfection in our education system is a serious problem in our society. Although I wish I could say that I've miraculously come up with an alternative to our grading system or an alternative to the ACT or SAT, I really do not have such an answer. However, following steps such as these, or even telling people that they are wrong to think that you have not succeeded after getting a B or C on an assignment, can begin the process of change in our education system.
Okay, Lainey, how did that go?